Are you super pumped for the 2021 growing season? If you're not, hopefully by the end of this video, you will be making sure your seeds, soil, and trays and lighting are ready to start some seeds for your garden. So if you want to learn about how I plan all of my seed starting and direct sowing to grow vegetables and herbs, you're going to want to watch this video because I'm going to show you what my setup is like. I'm going to show you my annual planting calendar that it's based off my first and last frost dates, and show you an easy way that you can modify that calendar to fit your specific area and so it matches your last and first frost dates. So thanks for joining. So the first thing I want to show you in today's video is my garden planning journal. I use this paper journal to do all sorts of data collecting, planning, designing for my garden spaces. It's got a quad grid, so it's graph paper, and you can easily draw things to scale. You can make boxes to organize stuff. I just love it. But in here, what's important in here, and I want to show you right now, is my planting calendar. I have the entire year, 1 week for every year on this form. It's got my last frost date in the spring, and it's got my first frost date in the fall. This is what I use to record when I plant things, when I harvest things, any pruning or fertilizing or other important tasks that I like to keep track of. So this is where I actually write down my data of what I really did. In this journal, I also just have a section for each month. You can see January is blank right now, not because I didn't do anything, because I was still using last year's journal in January, and I just haven't taken the time to transfer it. So you can see I'm a total dork and bought the exact same journal, but in last year's gardening journal, let me just give you a little show of that. So kept track of what I planted, what week of the year it was, and anything I did, things I harvest. That's also really important to keep track of so that you can plan to plant something after it, or you can make sure that you can harvest it before a frost in the fall. Here's an example of some garden spatial planning that I did of what would be planted where and the dates it would be in that area, so that I could also plan for what would go after them in that same spot. Here I also have some designs that I was doing to build the trellises behind my raised beds on each terrace. So again, another great reason why to get graph paper, so you can keep all those initial plans and drawings in here. So far this year, I haven't had a chance to actually map out any of where I want to put my crops. I have a lot of ideas in my head. I've been thinking about it. I think about it all the time, but I haven't put it on paper yet. And that's just because right now I'm so focused on planning my seed starting and just making sure I have plenty of starts to put in all those spaces. So I'm just trying to grow as many starts as I can in the space that I have available, so that I can maximize the number of crops that I can put into those places once I actually do plan where I want them. Now, obviously, the location of where you're going to plant something really can determine the amount you're able to plant. But I know for me in my past that with things like broccoli and with all plants, I'll get real here, there's gonna be some that don't survive. There's gonna be some that are just wonky, or that the slugs attack, or whatever. But I always plan to have extra to put in there and plant really densely, and then assume that not everything will make it to maturity. So what I've got in my garden journal so far is just a list of chores that I've been working on, and it also has my annual planting calendar. I also have a digital version of this calendar, which I'll show you after I show you my plants, because let's get real, we want to look at seedlings. It's so exciting. So I'll show you that Excel spreadsheet that I'm more than happy to send you a copy of via email. But first, let's check out what I've got growing. So this is my plant starting shelf. It's got 4 shelves for plants, and then the top shelf is for storage. And on each of the plant shelves, I've got 2 LED shop lights per shelf. Now, so that I've got a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 shop lights. I also have a few heat mats under a few crops, and here I just happen to have this insulated food bag that I am reusing and putting that underneath these with the reflective side up, and a heat mat here for my perennial herbs that are running really slow, but I'll show you all that. So I'm going to try to show you everything in order of when I planted it and catch you up to where I'm at. Here's my first tray that I started this winter. These were all started on January 24th. Most of the things in here are perennial herbs, except for these 4 cells. I was just testing out some salvia seed that I got and wanted to learn more about its germination rate and growth rate. So I'll grow more of these later on, but the herbs I really wanted to get an early start on. So here I've got rosemary, a different kind of rosemary, and 2 rows of lavender. These 2 rows of rosemary and these 2 rows of lavender are from the Fairy Morse So Easy brand, which is a pelleted, or not brand, but line from their brand, pelleted seed that makes it easier, supposedly, for them to grow and germinate and thrive. However, these 2 rosemary didn't do remotely well as the organic rosemary from Fairy Morse, non-pelletized. Much higher germination rate. Here, these 2 rows are the So Easy lavender, and I've got 1, 2, oh man, 3, 4 that have germinated out of 24 cells. So not so hot. But these are just starting to germinate. I'm sure we'll see some more germination. Lavender can be really slow. But this is a much lower germination rate than my other non-pelletized lavender seeds that I'll show you in just a moment. This tray was planted on January 26th and was definitely not a combination that I would do again if I were thinking about it ahead of time. In these 2 rows, I have some pansies. Their germination has been really successful. The plants are doing well and they look healthy, and I'll probably be thinning them down to about 2 plants per pot. Here we've got violas, and those are just a smaller version of pansies, and they also did really well. I definitely need to get in here and thin these, but I'm giving them a little bit more time because I think they can handle that for me to really figure out which ones are most vigorous. Then in the middle, I've got 2 rows of lavender, and these were a English lavender non-pelletized seed. They might have even been a fresher seed than the old ones, so that could be a problem too, is that those other seeds weren't very fresh. But there are lots of little lavenders here, and there's still a few cells that haven't had anything germinate yet, but most of them have at least 1, if not a ton. Look at that one. This tray was also planted on January 26th and has perennial herbs in it. The first 2 rows are oregano, second 2 rows are sage, the last 2 rows are thyme. And I am most worried about this flat. I feel like I should have more growth in the oregano and thyme by now, but perhaps I am overestimating and dreaming? I don't know. So this sage sprout is already developing its second set of leaves, or it's what people might call their true leaves. So that means that it's time to start fertilizing this. I sterilized this mix before I planted, just so I could make sure that I was reducing my chances of fungus gnat eggs surviving in that peat moss. But now I need to add some nutrients. And so I'm really hoping that that's going to help these give them a little kickstart and get them going. I need to figure it out. I'm also going to start another tray of oregano, thyme, and probably also lavender, and just kind of see how it goes. But I'm also going to do them in different, not all in the same flat, so that way the ones that grow at different spaces and germinate different times can have their own time they need in their germination station. Now, let me tell you something. So I just fertilized last night. I used AgroThrive organic fertilizer in liquid form. Let me show you. It's this right here. So I made up a watered down version that they have on their directions for what to give to nursery plants or starts. And I bottom watered everybody with this yesterday, so hopefully that'll help. I did not do it for these, they haven't even germinated. But what I want to warn you about is making sure that you dump any extra water. And the reason why is it looks like that AgroThrive molded. This one was on a heat mat, so it kept it extra warm, and the extra nutrients in the bottom of the tray molded overnight. Crazy. So this is why you need to empty your trays when you bottom water after they've sat for an hour or two, and then drain off that. So I'm going to need to make sure that I do that with these, and maybe even give that bottom tray a rinse each time so that I'm not creating moldy roots for my little babies. Here are my onion starts. This flat over here I planted on January 21st, and this flat here I planted on January 24th. So just within a few days of each other. The ones that germinated quickest for me were these Clear Dawn onions, and they are a long day variety. These are all long day varieties because that is the zone that I am in, and it's based on the amount of daylight you have at the peak of summer. And so you'll want to make sure that you know whether you're in the long day, intermediate day, or short day area, and you want to grow the proper type of onions for that area. So these are all long day. I've got the Clear Dawn, I've got Walla Wallas, which are our state onion. These are super sweet Utah jumbos, all in this tray right here. So I can't wait to plant all of those. Since we're talking about onions, I've got to tell you about the other ways that I'll be planting onions as well. So in addition to the seeds that I've started, I also purchased some started plants and had them mailed to me. So these were probably started in December or so. I don't know. I'm not a greenhouse grower, so I don't know. But they were started around that time, and they are super duper ready to go outside. So this is their first year of life from seed. Now, onions are biennials. That means they have a 2-year life cycle. And so this is the first year life cycle. And normally within that first year, it forms a big bulb. And then the next year, that bulb will send up a stalk and will flower and produces seed on its second year. So it should not produce seed its first year. These right here are called onion sets. Now also, this may be different in different areas. This is just what I learned to call them. These are starts, these are sets. And from seed, you would get a start. These sets are actually last year's bulb, but they were planted either so densely or only allowed to grow to a certain stage of maturity. So they were probably grown, a little later in the year. And then they were harvested, and this bulb will sprout this second year. However, I've never planted sets before, but I've heard that because it's its second year of life, it's more likely to bolt before it forms a bulb than something that's in its first year of life, like these onion starts right here, and the starts that I have grown from seed. While I'm showing you those, I'm also going to show you my potato starts because I store them similarly. They're going to be planted at similar times. So I've got a variety of things going on here, and I haven't really grown potatoes much. My husband loves potatoes, but my kids actually don't really like potatoes. Even French fries, they're like, nah, I'm all right. But we're going to work on trying to find different ways to enjoy potatoes. So I've got a variety of different things I'm going to do to grow potatoes this year. I purchased these 3 boxes of seed potatoes from Home Depot. And let's just give you a look. I'm sure you want to know what they look like versus their box. So these are the Yukon Golds. You can see they're starting to form their eyes. And these I may keep whole and plant, or I might cut them and plant them. I haven't decided yet. So that is the Yukon Gold. Here are the red Norland seed potatoes. And here are the all blue or purple seed potatoes. So I can either plant these as is, or I can cut them up to create more plants that you would space a little bit further apart. I haven't decided how I want to plant them this year because I haven't grown potatoes in a while, and the last time I remember planting them, I don't really remember what we did, and so I might try it both ways. I also want to try just some straight up grocery store potatoes. I've got, these are from our Fred Meyer private selection Kroger. Some of you might know Kroger. And this is a petite medley of purple, red, and gold potatoes. It is conventional, so who knows what kind of things it's been sprayed with in regards to growth inhibitors. And here is a fingerling gourmet potato. It looks like it's a selection of red and gold fingerling potatoes. And it is organic, so we'll see how that sprouts. And then over here, I also have some mystery potatoes that I harvested from our community garden when I was cleaning one of the plots up. I was cleaning it up and evening it out and adding wood chips to it to preserve the soil. And I found these as I was cleaning them up. So I said, oh, heck yeah, you bet I'm going to plant those. So you can see they're still drying because they were just outside. I can scrape some more soil off of them. And I've got this paper bag under there, just hoping that it might help absorb more moisture. So I will watch these, let them dry out, and then I will probably be splitting these. We'll see how the sprouting goes. These were all planted on January 31st, and it is an assortment of different brassicas. We've got broccoli, cauliflower, more broccoli, Romanesco cauliflower, and kohlrabi, I'm guessing. Yes, purple Vienna kohlrabi. And this over here is actually white Vienna kohlrabi. So I'm excited. I've never tried white kohlrabi. I've only had purple. And then this next tray, these are actually seedlings that I pricked out of those cells and put into these cells because those had germinated more than one or even more than 2. And I could easily just, instead of starting more, I could take those and put them here, and then I'm already at a head start. But this gives them more space to grow to a size where I can then plant them out in the garden once they've filled up this size. This tray of peppers was started on January 31st, and it's got a whole variety of different peppers. I've got habanada, shishito, early jalapeno, sweet banana. What's that say? Sweet banana? Yeah, sweet banana. And California Wonder Bells. Those didn't germinate super well. And poblanos, which I really want to grow a lot more of this year. All right, y'all, this just happened. I have my first chick escaped out of my brooder. I guess it's time to put the lid on. Here she is. I'm going to get her and put her back. Chick, 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 chick. Chick, 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 chick. Chick, chick. Chick, 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 chick. Chick, 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 chick. Oh, she's on the run. This is Snowball. She's not a super fan of being held. Oh, she's gonna go under those shelves. Don't do it. I know, girl. I'm here. I'm here. Oh, you're gonna go in your... Let's close off that walkway. There, now she can't get through. Oh, she probably could have. Oh, I got her. Hey, Snowball. Snowball, did you just escape? One-handed chicken wrangling. Not so hard when they're this small. That's little Snowball. She's an Easter egger or Americana type chicken. And she doesn't like to be held a whole lot. But she sure is beautiful. I love her white fluff. Here you go, girl. All right, back to the seeds. So that's what I've been growing so far this year. But there's still a lot of things to grow and plenty of time for you to start all the seeds you've been dreaming of growing. I want you to check out this Excel spreadsheet that I've created that helps me keep track of when certain crops should be planted relative to your last or first frost, as well as a planting calendar that you can adjust to your specific last and first frost dates to know when you should be planting the varieties of vegetables you really want to grow. So check out that spreadsheet. This Excel workbook has 3 different tabs. The first tab is the indoor seed starting and transplant table, the second is the annual calendar, and the third is the printable calendar for your weekly notes. On the left column it goes through the plants. The blue column is the number of weeks before your last frost date to the last frost date in spring to start your plants indoors. The yellow column is the number of weeks some plants need to be started 10 to 12 weeks before, or direct sow outdoors. And notice that this says -4 in that first cell. That's because that can be transplanted outdoors before your last frost date. So that's what it means if it's negative. Then in the fourth column, the red column, you can see that is the number of weeks before your first frost date in fall to start indoors. And those plants you're going to start inside in the heat of the summer, and then you're going to transplant them outside when things start to cool down so you can have a fall and winter harvest. Lastly is this column that shows how far apart you should space your plants when you're transplanting them, and this is going to vary for every growing condition. I like to use a pretty high density spacing. The annual calendar tab is similar to the annual calendar that I handwrite in my journal. You can see on the left it goes through the number of weeks in the year and the date, and then it also tells you how close to your last frost you are. Up in the top row, those are different plants that I like to grow in my area, and it starts with onions, which need to be started first, and then goes down in time with how the things that are closer to your first frost to get started. Now you can write whatever you'd like to in these cells. I just have the types of trays that I was going to start them in. You could also write the variety of cabbage it is. You could put how many plants you want to start or have in your garden. There's a lot of different data that you could include in there. What you must do though is to figure out your last and first frost dates in your area. I highly recommend you go to this website, plantmaps.com, and you can type in your zip code and it'll help you figure out your last frost date in the spring. So you'll want to change this on your spreadsheet and switch the 0 to whatever week you are usually have your last frost date in the spring. You'll then need to readjust these numbers up and down so that the number of negative weeks that you have matches when your zeroed out frost date is. This last tab is the printable calendar for weekly notes. So this is similar to what I write in my notebook, and you could just print this out and handwrite it. You could tuck this into a notebook or a binder or keep in your greenhouse, but this is a good place to write things, and you'll also want to make sure you change the frost date there so that it matches your zone. If you send me an email at PugetSound gardenlife@gmail.com. I'd be more than happy to send you a copy of that spreadsheet so that you can change it and modify it and make it useful for what you want to grow in your garden. If this video has helped you out at all or motivated you to get your spring garden started, please give me a thumbs up. It would help my channel grow. Plus, I would also love to learn more about you and your garden. So please, in the comments, tell me something that you want to grow, maybe something you want to grow for the first time, or something that is your favorite that you've grown for years. I would love to hear it. So thanks so much for watching this episode of Puget Sound Garden Life. I really appreciate your support, and I'm so excited for you to start your 2021 garden.